So I have kind of 5 theories, I would say, on what's going on with John Jones, and I bounce between them all the time of what I think is happening. The first one I think is Dom Reyes is just that good. You know, he was an undefeated prospect. He's super athletic. You know, I told you before the fight, he's got great footwork and great boxing, and he used it in this fight. And so I think, you know, the tape argument and the game plan argument is certainly a fair one. The second one, which I think a lot of the John Jones conspiracy theorists love, is that John Jones got caught cheating with steroids with Turinabol, and you know now we're seeing a not doped up John Jones, and he's just not as good. Which I don't necessarily think that, but it's definitely out there. I think the third one is that John Jones is a guy who's been at the top of the sport for 10 years. And he was a very intense wrestler before this, and his body's just wearing down. And typically the wrestling is the first thing that goes. And I think we saw that a little bit in this fight where, you know, he's just not as dynamic as he used to be.
I think that toe injury has a lot to do with it. You see he has it wrapped up, and if anyone hasn't seen that, against Chael Sonnen, he broke that toe where the bone was, sticking out. It was disgusting. And I don't know if that hinders the way he's able to wrestle.
Yeah, maybe. And I just think the joints wear down. I think, you know, your knees wear down, and your ability to push off on takedowns it gets worse as you go on. I mean, there's a reason you don't see Olympic wrestlers, you know, deep into their 30s and 40s. So, you know, I think that's certainly an option. I think the fourth one I think about is John is playing it safe and just wants to maintain his title, doing the least work possible. And then the fifth one is that he's either simply unmotivated or he's running the show so much at Jackson Wink that he just isn't training all that hard for these fights. And so when he gets in there, he's kind of coasting on natural ability. And it's not because he game planned and not because he worked really hard. But I don't really have a great answer for which one of those theories it is. But I think there's a lot of options for what we're seeing out of John Jones. But clearly what we're seeing is a diminished product compared to even the Gustafsson 2 fight. I think he looked way better than he's looked in any of his last 3 fights.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the motivation may be a thing. Like he's been through all these legends like we talked about last week, that maybe he just can't get up for the Dom Reyeses, Anthony Smiths, the Corey Andersons of the world, which I think is very dangerous because eventually that's going to catch up to him. I mean, you can see the last 2 fights, really, Thiago Santos and then Dominic Reyes, those guys pushed him to the brink, and Thiago Santos did it on 2 bum knees. So I don't know. I didn't get a lot of answers where John is at currently. I just think his overall game and his experience in these championship fights are able to carry him through just because he's been there. He's done that against the best of his generation at light heavyweight. What I was really impressed with was his defense. His defense is spectacular. I mean, he is the Floyd Mayweather of MMA. He rarely gets hit clean. And Dom Reyes, to me, he really looked like just a more explosive Gustafsson. He used a lot of the similar techniques that Gustafsson did, maybe in the first fight. Just constant movement. He's got great boxing. But he's an explosive, dangerous guy. And outside of that 4th round, that maybe 2 or 3 shots in the 4th round, he really didn't get touched that bad. I mean, his head movement was so impressive, and I haven't seen someone with that kind of head movement in MMA. That really, really impressed me. So I don't know. I think he's in a weird spot right now where he doesn't know what he wants to do. Does he stay here and just keep adding title defenses, or does he seek a gigantic fight against Israel, or does he move to heavyweight and try to be a double champ? I don't know. I think there's a lot of confusion around what's going to be next for John. What are you thinking is John's next move?
I think John will take a rematch with Dom Reyes. If I was to advise John Jones on what his next move should be, and I'm hearing a lot of people say pump the brakes on this. I think he should go to heavyweight right now because I think what's happening is I think his body is wearing down. I think just like you mentioned, the defensive movement, the head movement, the timing, that doesn't happen without a lot of training. I think his body's starting to wear down. He's starting to exit his athletic prime. And I think he needs to go to heavyweight right now where there's a lot of aging contenders who are ripe to pick off. He'd have a huge speed advantage, which I think killed him against Dom Reyes. Dom looked like a faster fighter in the first couple rounds. And I think he would be able to really, really cement his legacy of, I am the greatest of all time. There is no debate because I won light heavyweight and heavyweight. And I think now is the time and he should do it. But I do think he ends up taking a rematch with Dom Reyes.